You got paid 3 weeks ago. You had a plan. And right now, checking your balance, that plan is somewhere between embarrassing and criminal. Here's the part nobody tells you. That wasn't a failure of discipline. That was your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, successfully, efficiently, with zero apologies. Every other Monday, the same movie plays. Paycheck lands, you feel something close to relief, maybe even possibility. This is the month. You're going to meal prep. Skip the $7 coffee. Actually move money into savings before you forget. And for about 4 hours, the plan feels real. Then dinner. Then something on sale. Then a thing you've been meaning to get. And then the month is over, and you're doing math on your phone at 11 p.m. trying to explain to yourself where $2,600 went. The worst part isn't the money. It's that you know better. You've read the articles. You know what compound interest is. You understand how wealthy people supposedly think about money. You could teach this stuff. And somehow, none of that knowledge makes any difference on the day your paycheck hits. That's the first clue that what you're dealing with isn't an education problem. The research on people stuck in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle reveals something that should be genuinely alarming. The majority know exactly what they should be doing differently. They're not confused about savings. They're not ignorant about spending. They know. They just keep not doing it. And every month they don't, they're losing the one resource that makes wealth building possible: time. 6 years of this gap adds up to $80,000. Not because of investment genius, just because of compounding on money that gets moved consistently instead of consumed. There's a behavioral pattern running underneath all of this. Something so old it predates language, budgets, and banking apps by about 199,700 years. And until you understand what it is, you can throw every strategy at your finances and watch it quietly lose. This is going to show you what that pattern actually is, why willpower is the worst possible tool for fighting it, and the 3 structural shifts that intercept it before it does damage, without requiring a single act of discipline. The third shift is the one almost no financial content touches. I'm saving it for last because it only makes sense once you understand the first 2. Here's what behavioral finance researchers found hiding inside normal spending behavior. On payday, your brain does something specific, predictable enough that it has a name. The moment money hits your account, a much older, much louder part of your brain activates before your rational planning system even loads. The part that's been keeping humans alive since the African savanna. To that part of your brain, incoming financial resources read as exactly one thing: a successful hunt. And after every successful hunt, the biological directive is identical across every mammal on Earth. Consume now, before competitors can take it, before conditions change, before winter or tomorrow's uncertainty makes it unavailable. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing its job. It's been doing that job for 200,000 years, and it is very good at it. The problem is it's running ancient hunting software on a modern paycheck. And the software has never been updated. This is why the lottery statistics are so brutal. Study after study shows that most lottery winners return to their financial baseline within 5 years. More money didn't change the outcome because the same software was running. More resources, same feast response, same result. It's also why roughly a third of 6-figure earners report living paycheck to paycheck. It's not about how much comes in. It's about what fires in your brain the moment it arrives. Behavioral finance researchers name this the feast response. What makes it almost impossible to fight through awareness alone is that it doesn't feel like primal instinct. It packages itself as rationality. The Uber instead of the commute because you're tired. The dinner out because you worked hard. The sale item you would have bought eventually anyway. Each decision feels justified in the moment. Because the feast response is smart. It learned to hide inside your reasoning. You're not failing at discipline. You're being outmaneuvered by a cognitive system with 200,000 years of practice. Here's where conventional personal finance advice makes everything worse. The standard advice tells you this. Know that the urge to spend is the wrong call, feel the urge and choose not to act on it. Willpower, awareness, the survival brain versus conscious intention. Guess who wins that fight? Every time. Not because you're weak, because the survival brain was designed to win every time. It doesn't take breaks. It doesn't lose motivation. Trying to out-discipline your own ancient brain is like trying to hold your breath to override your heartbeat. You can manage it briefly. Then your body takes back control. People who build real wealth on average incomes aren't more disciplined. They change the architecture. The first structural shift is timing. People stuck in the paycheck cycle manage money in the order the feast response prefers. Money arrives, spending happens, savings get whatever's left. There's never anything left. Because the feast response consumed the entire resource before the rational brain could intervene. Wealth-building behavior inverts this sequence before payday triggers the response. Savings transfer automatically the moment the paycheck lands, not after dinner, not when there's something left first. Before the hunting brain accounts for it. The kill is moved before the feast begins. The key is that it's automatic and pre-committed. If you do it manually each month, your brain starts counting the savings as part of the available resource. The architecture has to be invisible to be effective. The second structural shift is friction. The feast response accelerates in proportion to how easy consumption is. Every layer of inconvenience between the impulse and the purchase reduces the probability of the purchase completing. Not because the urge disappears, it doesn't. But urges have a short half-life. They peak and drop within minutes. Add 48 hours between impulse and purchase for anything above a set dollar threshold. Not to think harder. Because you don't need to think at all, the urge will be mostly gone, and your brain will make a completely different call without you. Research on purchasing behavior consistently shows that 70 to 80% of items added to digital carts during high impulse states are abandoned within 72 hours without regret. The item hasn't changed, the brain state has. Friction buys time, time is all you need. There's a hard thing about understanding all of this. If the architecture is what matters, not the discipline, then every time you've blamed yourself for not having enough willpower around money, you were running the wrong analysis. You weren't failing at self-control. You were just fighting with the wrong tool. Every piece of advice that told you to just be more intentional with your spending was giving you a wrench for a problem that needs rewiring. That's not a reason to feel better about where the money went. The math is still the math. The third structural shift is the one that changes the whole game. It's not a tactic, it's an identity shift. Specifically, a label shift. The feast response gets overridden most durably, not when someone decides to save more, but when their self-concept includes the word saver. When the behavior becomes part of identity instead of a goal, the cognitive load drops dramatically. Denying the urge doesn't feel like deprivation anymore. It feels like being yourself. The problem is you can't just decide to have a different identity. Your brain requires proof. Small, repeated, visible proof that the label is accurate. Which is exactly why the automatic transfer matters beyond just the dollar amount. It creates behavioral evidence. Every month the system fires without your input, your brain logs it. Saver, evidence filed. Repeat this enough times and something changes. Not because you became more disciplined, but because your brain started updating the label to match the behavior. People who automate savings consistently report that within 3 or 4 months, their impulse spending decreases in ways they didn't engineer directly. The architecture built the identity. The identity changed the behavior. You are not someone with a discipline problem. You are someone running ancient software in a modern financial environment, using the wrong tool to fight a 200,000-year-old biological system. The people saving money on the same income as people who can't aren't stronger. They stopped trying to win a fight that can't be won with willpower. They changed the terrain. They automated the kill before the feast could start. They built friction between impulse and consequence. And then, slowly, through repetition, they let the behavior rewrite the label. The feast response isn't going anywhere. It was never the problem. The architecture was. One last thing worth sitting with. If the same brain running the feast response on your paycheck is also running every other financial decision you make, investing, debt, retirement, insurance, then the architecture question applies everywhere. That's a longer conversation, but it starts here.